So many questions heading into the game against New Orleans. A lot of pressure. I don't even think you can debate that. Let's get into it live in the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Texans, they got a big one this Sunday. I think it's bigger than we may have originally thought. We will get into that. Got a special guest coming through. Hope you're enjoying your weekend, and hopefully it's enjoyable with a Texans dub. Please subscribe, like, ride along. Number one source for Texans daily digital content. I would say the number 2 source, no disrespect. But the number 2 source, number 1 source for like as far as being like on top of the Texans daily. I'm not even going to try to front on that. I talk about it, but as far as like being there and being in the locker room and stuff like that and having a pulse of the Texans past, current, etc., he joins me right now, and that's Cody Stutes. Cody Stutes, how you doing, my friend?
I'm fantastic, man. I love these late night sessions talking Texans. Nobody would have given a crap the past 2 years, but this football team is exciting. And yes, you're right. You are the number 1 source on YouTube. But I like the
corny ass. What was that, Stutes?
What are you trying to crap on my excitement? What is this? The morning show on 610?
I'm just messing with you.
We want to talk about weird things. What's that thing on your lip?
I'm trying. I go through a mustache phase once a year. It's not like a Movember or anything. It's just like a mustache phase once a year. My pops has had a mustache my whole life, so I go once a year, and I usually try to do it before November because I'm kind of like hipstery.
Yeah,
and I try to be a little bit different at times. So I'm just kind of getting this going. I don't. People like it, but I don't really like it.
You look like a French bad guy in a Fast and Furious movie.
Honestly, I honestly look like I should be on like channel. Like I don't even want to get into it. But yeah,
Spice Channel.
I don't know where the hell I should be, man. Me and Lopez were doing mug shots, like on the spot mug shots, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do one right now. I look like a damn slime ball, bro.
Yeah, they don't let you near playgrounds.
So I want to start with this, and this has been my theory. Cody Stutes here. We'll get into the top 10 questions and get your comments in. I think the Astros have increased the pressure on the Houston Texans. And my theory is this, and I've talked to people that would probably understand this situation pretty good. I don't put out all my opinions on Twitter. I don't put out all my stuff. This is where you come or you listen to me on the radio. Like I'm not going to like sit there and like say, everything that's going on. You can catch a lot of stuff, including the Cleveland Browns rumors that I'm hearing. You got to go back and listen on the Odyssey app if you want to hear those. Might say I'm here, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff about a former quarterback here, a lot from people in the know, or ish or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think that the Astros are putting a lot of extra pressure on the Texans because of the current layout. And the reason is simple. Texans have been the distant 2 in this town for nearly a decade. And they finally got some buzz created. The buzz is not what they thought it was going to be. Like they can sit there and say, it's a process, blah, blah, blah. I think they thought as soon as you brought in D'Amico, as soon as you found the quarterback, and I think they have, and I do think the future's bright, but I think they thought that maybe there would be a little bit more feel of like some buzz and support. They haven't gotten that. I do eventually think they're going to get there. And I think a year from now when we're talking about this, we could be talking about the Texans like sold out and all this type of stuff. But the fact they're going to be out of action for 2 weeks, the fact the Astros are playing the Rangers, and the fact that the Texans are 2-3 right now, if they lose this game to the Saints, it's not the end of the season. It's not the like the end of the world. It doesn't damage them in the long-term health. Look at what they're saying in Carolina. Look at what they're saying with the Raiders. They're all claiming that they wanted CJ Stroud. So you got what a lot of people want. But if you lose this game and you're out of sight, out of mind for 2 weeks, and not only are you out of sight, out of mind for 2 weeks, you are going on the road the next time that you play. You've got to win this game against the Saints. You've got to.
Look, you do not want to sit there for 2 weeks and have the Astros play in another World Series, play for a championship, and then lick your wounds for 2 weeks wondering how Derek Carr with one arm came in here and beat you. You do not want that to happen. And I really do feel like the buzz and the good vibes would have stayed sort of high and not been kind of that up and down if you'd taken care of business against the Colts. But that home opener, it's the Colts. They smoke you. You're out of it by halftime. Like, that was tough to overcome. You take care of business against a heritage franchise like the Steelers. A lot of Steelers fans in the building. So you didn't have a lot of Texans fans in the building to feel that. You should have a few more. There'll still be some Saints fans on Sunday, but you kind of get the vibes. And then if you come out of that the bye week with a defeat of Carolina and then coming back home with a couple of winnable games on the schedule, you can start to build some momentum, but you got to work from a really big deficit if you lose on Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. And very important people in that building agree. Like, and they are not they might like what's good for the city. The Astros losing in the previous round would have been good for the Texans. Like, straight up, it would have been. It's not good for me. Like, we're not dependent on the Astros or Texans. Like, some stations are, we're not. Like, we're 100% not. Like, the track record speaks for itself. Like, I'm dependent on a non-dumbass boss, but I'm not dependent on that. Like, but I want the Astros to do well. But with the Texans, this is not what you want. This is not what you want.
Well, and you got to think about this too. That game against the Panthers, that's the 29th. That's right between game 2 and game 3 of the World Series. So you could really be building some momentum. You take care of the Saints. The Astros play that night. The Astros kind of carry into that Panthers game. You take care of business against the Panthers, and then you kind of are in the flow of awesome Houston sports, or you could be out of the flow real quick with a loss Sunday, and you'd probably be off the radar a little bit. Everybody be taking a big breather after that first 2 games of the World Series.
I think they're up against it even if they win. Like, because I think the bye week's at a perfect time football wise, but I think from like a business standpoint, I don't think it's perfect. Like with the Astros going like facing the Rangers and stuff. So I kind of think that that's kind of something they're up against. You guys talk me into it. I'll get into the latest on the former quarterback. I'm also marking all of your questions, et cetera, just to get to that a little bit later on. Got Cody Stutes in the building, but I definitely it's most of my opinions, like they're based on like following what's going on, and a lot of them are pretty decently informed, regardless of how they backfire. So big news, Tank Dell is out, we think. Now, they said he was limited in practice. I don't know what the hell that means. Aaron Wilson has already reported that Tank Dell is going to be out. I saw that. How do they make up for that? And how significant do you think this is?
Well, you don't make up Tank Dell. You just try to replace him the best you can. There's not somebody that replicates exactly what Tank Dell brings to the table. I'll tell you this: if you hated week 1 and you hated the guy getting the ball week 1 that got the ball, you're going to hate week 6 tomorrow on Sunday, because Noah Brown's going to be right back in the mix here with no Tank Dell. Noah Brown come off the injured reserve. They'll have to make a move Saturday afternoon to put him on the team, and then he'll be right back in the mix. But I do believe the development of John Mechie over the past couple of weeks, with Dell down, Robert Woods a little banged up, Mechie played 41% of the snaps against the Falcons, and you can see the growth and development over the past couple of weeks. And when he gets the ball in his hands, I mean, he ran through a dude in Jacksonville.
I think he's got AOE, which is something that goes back to high school basketball for me. He's got alley-oop energy, where like in high school basketball, if someone like dunks it like on an alley-oop, it's 2 points, but it just seems to like ignite the entire team. Like we see it with like anytime Altuve gets a hit, it seems like the Astros get ignited, and we don't really have like tangible proof of it, but it does just kind of feel like when you're just watching, when Mechie makes a play, whether it's just him pointing or whatever, and the way that his teammates talk to him, it just feels like there's a little bit of like alley-oop type of energy.
I mean, the guy's got 6 catches on 7 receptions, but he ran over a couple of Steelers. He ran over
on 7 receptions.
6 receptions on 7 targets. Excuse me. He ran over a Jaguar. He ran over a couple of Steelers. I mean, he was fighting for yards against the Falcons. Like, I really like what Mechie brings to the table. So I think it's a Mechie Brown split to kind of make up for Tank Dell's absence. But again, you cannot replicate what Tank Dell brings to the table. You have to fill it in a couple of different ways.
Yeah, and I think Mechie's one option. I'm worried about Nico because I think Lattimore is going to man press him. And that was like, and Texans Cap brought this up, and I've used this stat so many times because I think Texans Cap is not one of those guys who just throws stats out. He gives like a lot of like background info on them. Like 70% of press coverage against the Falcons, and the Falcons got good secondary, and 20% before. I don't want to say there's a blueprint, but I will say I don't know what Lattimore is going to do, but I feel like they might tell Lattimore, hey, take out this number 12 guy, and then we'll figure everything else out. And that kind of magnifies Tank being out to me. And I also think it kind of increases like the desire to do that because you know that you don't have to worry about Tank Dell. And him and Nico have kind of played back and forth. I'm the best receiver. You're the best receiver. I'm the best receiver. You're the best receiver. So I do think that Nico's going to get pressed up.
I'll be interested to see how Bobby Slowick goes about counteracting that. Motions will keep guys from getting pressed at the line of scrimmage. Different formations, how you line up the wide receivers, that can help as well. Some of those pick plays that we see teams run so often. Nico running over the middle of the field, he's a catch and go type of guy. They didn't use him that way the first couple of years.
His yak looks Debo-like.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't use him that way the first couple years he was in the league. They just ran it on the sideline and tried to have Davis Mills throw him the ball, but getting him over the middle, it's up to Slowick to figure out how to get Nico Collins the ball. Because again, this is a similar defense. The guy that runs the Falcons defense was Dennis Allen's defensive coordinator. So it's a similar type of defense, but it's better because there's more experienced and more talented players. So big Bobby Slowick week, getting these wide receivers and getting this offense jump-started.
Someone wants to know, Russell wants to know what's in that Astros cup.
Little Dr. Pepper Zero and some insert could be your brand of whiskey right here.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'm sipping Corona Light, which is kind of way harder to find than you would think. Me and wifey, we went to Sawgrass today with the baby, so it's kind of
how'd the baby do in the restaurant?
Oh, she loves it, man. She's all about that. She's all about that life. She likes to hear the sound. So do you think that, like, as far as replacing Tank, that we've talked about Mechie, Schultz, we'll get to the running game in a second. Do you think that there's any like other possibilities? I want to free Quintariano. It seems like every time he touches the rock, something good happens. Like it's like touchdown first game that he comes back last year. I got to talk to him in the locker room after that. The play against the Colts last year. He goes up and snatches that the other day against the Falcons. I want to see a little more Tegan Quintariano. He's also a better blocker. I heard McClain this week on the morning show say, well, Dalton Schultz is a willing blocker. Willing to do what?
Willing to Olay?
He called him a willing blocker, and I love Dalton. I think Dalton's a great receiver, and I think Dalton's a great dude. He's a friend of In the Loop, and he's our guy. Like we could have. I feel like Dalton wanted to stay and talk to us, but willing blocker.
Well, just because he's willing doesn't mean he's able.
Well, I don't know that he's willing. I think he's there.
I'm willing to go on a diet, but I'm not able to stay on it.
Let's talk about the
one more thing about Quintiriano. He's a victim of CJ Stroud's success because he's never the first or second read on a play, and CJ's so good about finding the open guy that until it's built in that he's one of the first couple of reads or it's one of those extended plays, I don't think you really get Quintiriano the ball as much.
It's not like something you got to go too far with. What's up with the run game, bro? D'Amico said that they were blocking well. I mean, when you say they're blocking well and you say you got to make guys miss, like if there were like a 20-10 carry share, you would say, oh, wow, it's everyone. But when Devin Singletary doesn't have a single carry and it's all Dameon Pierce and D'Amico Ryan says that, then it's kind of clear what he's saying.
Look, there's a lot of stuff pointing to this offense finally getting it going on the ground. And I think the biggest thing is they have identified one of the major issues and let that issue know that they are one of the major issues. I mean, you don't have to be an expert in reading between the lines. When D'Amico Ryans comes out and in two separate questions on Monday says, we blocked well enough on the ground to run the football, you know who one of the culprits is for the run game not being where you want it to be. Now, it's not all on Dameon Pierce because George Fant got smoked a couple of times last Sunday. Shaq Mason got smoked a couple of times. Patterson. Like the Texans as a team fail to run block successfully on a regular basis. But if you're telling me that there were yards to be had and they missed them because of Dameon Pierce, I'd believe you. I'd also tell you that there's a decent chance that Devin Singletary is not glued to the bench on Sunday, and you may see a little bit more, which is something, Landry, to your credit, you've been dying to see a little bit more of a split at the running back
before the season started. Like, and I think that Dameon Pierce, like, I think there's a reason that he was so good at the end. Like, because I don't think anyone wants to F with Dameon Pierce at the end of games. Like, I think he's a badass. Like, it's not a knock on Dameon Pierce that he's not a guy that you give the rock to 20 plus times. That's not a knock on him, man. Like, that's not disrespectful. The running backs that are getting the ball 20 times, they're pissed off after their rookie deal. Like, I actually think there's a place there's a place for guys like Dameon Pierce to last longer than guys that are more equipped to do that. But I just think that you got to mix it up. And I don't even know that Singletary is the perfect fit. I don't know that they have the perfect fit, but I definitely know that they need to figure something out. And when I hear the coach say that, it kind of validates any of those thoughts or beliefs.
I'd be really interested to see like Singletary get a few more carries. I'm not advocating for Mike Boone to get carries, but you put the guy in there that can be successful. You shouldn't have to change the way you want to run the football just because Dameon Pierce is too impatient or too patient. Like, hey, go out there and hit the hole and get some yards, man. Because if you're in second and third and long against the Saints, they're going to eat you alive.
Hey, shout out to the effing Saints fans in here talking crap, man. Very much respect. Thank you so much for coming through. That's what it's all about. This is the place to get the pulse of the Texans. You might not have a place to get that before, and you might not need it very often, but I appreciate y'all for coming through. Keep doing y'all's thing. CJ Stroud current dialogue. I kind of wanted to touch on this because I think it's kind of funny. Apparently everyone wanted him. The Raiders, which I talked about leading up to the draft, and I was a Bryce Young guy, so you ain't got to tell me. Like, I was a Bryce Young guy, and I still think that Bryce Young might be okay. It might be kind of a Tua situation, and quite frankly, giving up the draft capital, it might be like a bad situation given what's going on. So yeah, I was a Bryce Young guy, I admit that. But now the Raiders wanted him. I think Titans wanted him, which we talked about to the draft. And apparently the Carolina Panthers wanted him. I don't know how this ends up. I know CJ Stroud is one of the best that I've ever seen at the podium as far as the maturity level. I also think that some of the stuff that we talked about with him, as far as like his talent around him, I think it might have actually kind of just allowed him to, I don't want to say it held him back because that would be stupid, but it kind of didn't allow you to assume that he could cover the ground just because he's thrown to 5 first-round wide receivers when he was at college. And I also think he's made one of his weaknesses a strength, which is using his legs the right way and having to feel in the pocket. It feels whatever he did leading up to the draft, like he put a lot of effort into that, and it is elite upon elite, especially for how young he is. But I do think it's funny now that everybody wanted CJ Stroud, everybody. And I also think from like a Texans POV, it's kind of like a salute from everybody.
Well, we know the Panthers were comfortable with him because the Bears' ultimate scheme was to trade back one spot to the Texans and then trade back to the Panthers. Ryan Poles revealed that and explained that, yeah, I had that in place. And basically the Texans backed out of the deal. And then the Panthers decided to jump all the way to 1 and have their choice, which, okay. Frank Reich makes it seem like he wanted CJ Stroud. And, you believe the owner gets involved. Well, the owner calls the shots. I mean, Tepper paid cash for that thing. You're going to draft who he tells you to draft. I don't care who you think is good or who you think.
Yeah, it was kind of weird that Josh McCown told him, hey, we're going to hoop when you get to Carolina.
Yeah. But the conversation around CJ Stroud it's a sense of relief for Texans fans because pretty much every time you've had that top pick, you were screwed either by not having a quarterback or you'd have gone with a quarterback that stunk. Like, yeah, Vince Young won Offensive Rookie of the Year. I believe Vince Young's exit from the NFL would have been accelerated in Houston. Mm-hmm. Blake Bortles.
You do?
Yes, I do. He would have had a much, much better coach for him, but I feel like the around Vince Young stuff would have been tougher.
Oh, okay, because of being in Houston.
Yes.
And Vince is kind of weird about that because I F with Vince for a while. Like it's kind of funny because like, and on one hand he says, I was so immature, I was so childish and blah, blah. And then he'll like, on the other hand say, well, if I would have gone to Houston, it's like, brother, I've seen you in Houston, dude. Like, I don't know that that's like ideal for you, bro.
Then you had Bortles or Manziel. You were screwed if you picked him. And then, thank goodness you didn't. Then you had Kenny Pickett as the only quarterback that went in the first round. The year you had 2 first-round picks. Thank God you didn't pick him. He sucks. And so now luck finally turned your way. You didn't get the number 1 pick, the guy that the Texans wanted. Like, they ended up with CJ Stroud. They eventually fell in love with CJ Stroud. They wanted Bryce Young. They were trying to get to number 1 to get Bryce Young. They had the conversation with the Bears. And so a little bit, it's refreshing to now see everybody wants what you have, which is a young, impressive quarterback.
And the whole thing is, and NHJ says Young and Kubiak offense could have been nice, but true about the immaturity. I wanted to name my firstborn Vince before I just had my my firstborn, which ended up being a girl, and I named her Avery. But like, yeah, I understand that. The whole thing is like this, though. Like, I think the Texans like Bryce Young. I think they wanted Bryce Young like most teams did. I do wonder what Bryce Young would be like in this situation. I think this situation is a little bit better than we initially thought with Carolina. And a lot of people say, well, the goalpost has moved. The goalpost hadn't moved. Like the situation's just kind of played out. Like it's kind of a fluid sports type of thing. But the whole thing, the other thing is this, like, it doesn't matter like what you originally thought or not. Sometimes you luck into stuff. Like the Patriots didn't want Tom Brady. Like the 49ers didn't want Joe Montana. They didn't love him. Like he fell into their lap. Like it's so like this notion that you have to have like a perfect initial thought. Like the notion that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good is never more true than in the NFL draft. Cowboys didn't want Micah Parsons. They wanted a cornerback. There was a cornerback run, and then they traded back, and they ended up with Micah Parsons. Like, it's sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. The Texans didn't want JJ Watt. They wanted
They-
Alden Smith.
They had a trade to go up and get Patrick Peterson and Alden Smith, and then nothing materialized. And they were like, "Well, I guess we'll pick JJ Watt." It's like, but yeah. Sometimes you get lucky. And look, I think isn't it interesting how the two offenses that haven't thrown an interception yet are run by a Shanahan style offensive guy and lucked into their quarterback? Like, you want to talk about never thinking you're going to play a guy. You don't pick Mr. Irrelevant thinking he's going to start on a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
That's what Purdy's doing in San Fran. And then Slowick running a similar system with his twist on it lucks into what actually turned out to be the best quarterback in this draft.
And it's the situation. Like it's literally the situation. Like that's just kind of how it goes. So sometimes it'd be like that. Shout out to Brandon Belak. What's he up to right now?
I mean, he's probably got a condo in Sugar Land.
Chilling?
And he ain't on the postseason roster, that's for sure.
Break down the injury report for us. You were at practice today. Let's break down the injury report. But the healthiest injury report that I've seen in a long time. The only thing that I saw was Tank Dell limited. What do we need to look for? Like surprised inactives, because a lot of people, a lot of y'all, I was too. So I'm not separating myself. We're kind of surprised by Tavier Thomas and Shaq Griffin being inactive on Sunday. What do we need to look for? I'm not asking you to like sit here and call your shot, but what do we need to look for as far as like surprises, etc.?
I don't believe that I don't believe Tank Dell's going to play. So I mean, don't expect him to be active. Matt Burke said that Shaq Griffin literally was a game time decision. Got on the field, worked out in Atlanta, couldn't go, and they turned.
And I think Shaq's going to give it everything he can for you. So I don't think it's like anything.
If he was close enough to test it last Sunday, I believe he's going to play. The one I would be kind of concerned about, I guess, is maybe Malik Collins, but he's been a full participant for 2 days, and I would expect. Here's what I would tell you to watch for the injury report for the rest of the year. If guys miss more than 2 practices, I would go ahead and say they're not going to play on Sundays. That's just the vibe and the sense I get for how this team wants to operate. So you're going to need to be limited at least on Thursday and then limited at least on Friday as well to play on Sundays for the Texans. And with a full participation from just about everybody, I wouldn't be worried about anybody. I believe they're going to get Tavier Thomas back. I believe they're going to get Griffin back. I would think Christian Harris is back because he's a full participant. Concussion protocol is weird, so you never really know. But I would think full strength with the exception of Tank Dell being down. So I don't know if there's going to be any tough decisions to make from an active inactive standpoint.
Yeah, I just think they need a couple more corners. Like that was tough. The whole
yeah, I mean,
and then you have Graylin Arnold. Like that was hard.
Yeah, and look, Shaq Griffin apparently practiced all week last week for like a good portion of it.
Ain't no apparent. That's what the way participant.
The way Burke talked about it was he gave it a go, couldn't go, and then they looked over at Kadar Holman and were like, "You're starting," and he's like, "Okay, like I'm ready, coach. Like, thank you." But like he hadn't been taking those reps, and it's a big to me the way the Texans operate, and just thinking about how practice works and how they practiced in San Francisco. Practicing matters to this coaching staff, and it's really important. And it's real. Like there are some coaches that they'd let their guys sit all week and show up on Sunday. That is not this coaching staff. That is not the way this team operates right now.
Someone wants to know, or someone said that they should have kept King.
Nah, I'm fine.
I don't think so. Like I think Graylin Arnold has done a really good job filling in for King. I think King would have been like good depth on the outside, but I think like I like Des King, but I don't think that's like a real good second guess. And I also think that was D'Amico's decision. I think D'Amico loves Graylin Arnold. Graylin Arnold forced a fumble last week. Like Graylin was fine.
You wouldn't be saying this if like this is an injury hindsight. This wasn't a this guy plays well hindsight. Like it's like, oh, like I would have rather had a proven guy as a depth piece, but I don't believe King would have played if everyone's healthy. That's the reason he's in Pittsburgh now.
Yeah, he's not doing great. Let's go through the 10 questions. Cody Stutes in the building. Subscribe, like, right along. We'll get to your questions a little bit later on. Question 1, heading into this weekend, what's up with the run game? Dameon Pierce, you can sit this one out. I'll say this, and then we can get into it. Dameon Pierce did not meet with the media today. Now, maybe that's a coincidence. Maybe that's just like, he talked to one person yesterday. But Dameon Pierce, all week, this is week 6, talked to multiple people in there, not including Stutes, not including Stutes. Like you didn't talk to Dameon Pierce today, did you?
Nope. Was waiting at that end of the locker room. His locker's at the very end. It's Dameon Pierce and Denzel Perryman right next to each other. And I always try to be respectful, wait for those guys to get dressed. And Dameon Pierce did not get dressed in the locker room today.
Yeah, and DJ Bieneme of ESPN, shout out to him. He said, yeah, sometimes it happens. The locker room was empty, didn't talk to him. Okay, sometimes it happens. It hadn't happened all year. Like the last 5 weeks, it hadn't happened. Dameon Pierce has spoken every Friday for the last 5 weeks. So sometimes it happens. It happened one time this year, and it happened to be 4 days after D'Amico Ryans said that they blocked well and did not finish runs well and make people miss.
Yeah.
In a game in which Dameon Pierce was the only one who carried the rock. So we can sit here and we can say, like, it's nothing to be, and you're making something out of nothing. I'm just telling you what happened. Like, and that's the whole point of the locker room.
He talks
is to talk about it because I followed this stuff. So they can minimize it and water can get carried and stuff like that, but that's the reality. Dameon Pierce talks on Friday every day, every Friday except this one. Dameon Pierce got indirectly called out by D'Amico Ryans, and Dameon Pierce did not speak today. And don't tell me he spoke yesterday because I didn't see that either. I haven't seen any quotes, and people I talked to said he didn't. So
Dameon Pierce is must capture video because he is so entertaining to talk to each week, even talking about opponents, talking about his team, talking about random stuff. I mean, the Anthony Richardson thing from a couple of weeks ago was hilarious. You would see video if Dameon Pierce talked. Dameon Pierce didn't talk.
Y'all know me, man. Like, this is the whole thing. Like, I'm not sitting here like I know that I F with the Texans, but I'm not going to sit there and like say something that I don't believe. Like, if I think Jack Easterby's a POS scumbag, I'm going to say it. I don't give a damn like what's going on. If I think Bill O'Brien's a dumbass, I'm going to say it. Like, I'm going to sit there and say it. So like, y'all, like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to the audience, especially in here in the locker room and on the radio show. Like, the reality is, like, we can minimize it and all that, and hopefully Dameon Pierce comes out. I hope Dameon Pierce goes for 180 and he can sit there and say, oh man, I was getting some therapy and it was a coincidence. But the reality is, like, if we're doing context clues, D'Amico Ryans says what he said on Monday. I have a video about that. Dameon Pierce, for the first time all year, does not speak on Friday. And that's just where we're at. But the question really is, like, what's up with the run game? That's the real question. But that right there makes me wonder, is like there's a couple of possibilities, right? Is Dameon Pierce feeling the heat, which would be great. Is Dameon Pierce's role changing? Is it a complete coincidence? Or is it something else? Like that's really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, he talks once a week, every week. It's typically Friday. He had one podium on a Monday, so he didn't talk that Friday because he'd done his once a week. But I mean, I do think from Dameon Pierce's standpoint, it was all kind of like he was a fun part of last year. He's one of the few bright spots last year. It was sunshine and roses last year, and whatever he did was awesome. And it's been difficult this year. And so part of that is, hey, I want to focus on me. I want to focus on my work. Maybe I don't want to talk this week. And it's not the biggest thing. It's not the biggest deal in the world.
No,
but
it's cool, but it's different. Like, let's not act like that's normal. That's different, brother. Like, and I love DJ, and DJ does his thing, but like, it's It's different. It's not, it doesn't, like sometimes that happens. It hadn't happened for 5 weeks.
Yep.
It hadn't happened for 5 weeks. Tyler Olson says, would you start Dameon Pierce in fantasy football? No, I would not.
I mean, it depends on who your backups are, but yeah, I'd probably give him a rest till he proves that he's the guy.
Is Singletary worth a pickup in fantasy? No. I would not do that. Although I don't even know that Singletary is that great. So, yeah, but what do they do with the run game? Like, what do you think? I mean, D'Amico said they're blocking well.
Yeah.
Which I think is great because the worst thing you could hear is that they're not blocking well. But the other theory is this. What if he's saying that because there's nothing he can do about it? What if he's saying that because he's stuck with Titus Howard and he's stuck with Laramie Tunsil, who might be better pass blockers than run blockers, and he's saying that because that's what he has to work with?
I don't subscribe to that, to the latter part of that, because if he felt like he needed a better run blocker at left guard, then he could move Titus Howard to right tackle and bench George Fant and then start a different left guard. So I don't subscribe to that. Again, we talked about practice a moment ago. To me, it's important that this week, the same offensive line that played last week practiced together, and now they've got
First time all season.
They got 5 practices under their belt together. And I know you love this guy. We talked to assistant coaches last week. Offensive line coach Chris Strasser talked about there's so much stuff that you pick up playing with a guy that you can pick up in a short amount of time when you get to practice and play with that guy. It's nonverbal stuff. You don't even have to think or talk about it. And look, it's 5 practices. It's not 5 weeks, but 5 practices versus, a couple of limited Laramie Tunsil practices and Titus Howard coming off the IR. Like, it looks better.
How did I become a Chris Strasser hater just because I made fun of you for interviewing him?
Well, I mean, I'm just laying it out there, man.
Slime ball. Question 2. Let's be quick with this because we've kind of touched on it from the beginning. How do you replace Tank Dell? Who is the one guy who steps up? Who is the one guy who you think steps up and fills his void the most?
Noah Brown. Returning from injured reserve, Noah Brown. I mean,
is he going to be back, you think?
Yes. I mean, full participant at practice all week. And
so are we
they trust
Noah Brown screens again that we saw in week 1?
No, not necessarily, but I would just feel like if you had to bet on who was going to run the majority of Tank Dell's routes, I'd bet on Noah.
Brown. He's a pizza snob. He hates Houston pizza.
Noah Brown does?
Yeah, we talked to him straight off the practice field.
Where's he from? Is he like from the Northeast? He's from Jersey. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He's hard. He's a hardo, bro.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. He probably hates
a hardo, man.
He probably hates bagels too.
Yeah, I mean, Noah likes to fight, dude. Like that's the whole thing. Like Noah likes to fight. Like Noah Brown had, I think, less than 40 catches at Ohio State, and he played his way onto the Cowboys, and it was special teams, and he just likes to fight, dude. Like Noah likes to block. Like it ain't no joke. Like Noah likes to fight.
That's why the rushing attack could also.
He's tough as F.
Now you don't have 160-pound Tank Dell trying to block somebody when the play is going outside. Now you got Noah Brown.
He will fight. He will fight.
Yeah. So Noah Brown's my answer.
Shout out to Noah. Question 3: when will Will Anderson shine? A lot of people like to give the stats, and I do think they matter. But are we going to see Will Anderson shine? Like we saw Max Crosby the other night. Max Crosby, shout out to Colleyville Middle School. Shout out to his history teacher, Cassandra. Special place in my heart for her. But my mom was Max's history teacher, if you didn't know. But I really, really wonder, like, are we babysitting Will Anderson? Like, because I think he's been good, but a sack on the final drive for Atlanta or something like that, it would go a long way. Like, he's not dominating the game like Aiden Hutchinson. He's not dominating the game like Max Crosby. He's not dominating the game like a lot of guys that you see drafted in that area that validate the resources, the assets that were used to acquire him?
Elite guys get sacks and pressures. Good guys get pressures. He's getting a lot of pressure, but he's not turned it into sacks. Like, he's playing really well. Like, I'd be foolish to form my mouth and tell you that he's not playing well. He's playing really well. He's not playing at an elite level because the elite guys are constant pressure and sacks. Okay, you go through who the elite guys at the pass rush spot in the NFL are. You constantly see them around guys. Max Crosby is probably the best example of constant pressure, and then the sack numbers are a little low because they don't have anybody else helping him out. But Myles Garrett, high sack numbers, high pressure. TJ Watt, high sack, high pressure. Will's just getting high pressure right now. It's going to turn at some point into sacks, and it's not going to get easy this week because one of the best right tackles in football is his opponent, Ryan Ramczyk. But it'd be nice if Grenard, Hughes, some of these defensive tackles could take advantage of what Will is putting together so that the sack numbers for the team went up, even if Will Anderson's not getting them. Or the best thing that could happen is he just beats everybody's ass, and then he gets the sacks and the pressure.
I think he's going to be fine, and I like Will Anderson. And the other thing is this: like, I also think it's kind of unfair to like completely judge the draft equity that was used to acquire him, because I put it this way: my co-host is John Lopez, and John Lopez is rich. He'll deny it. He's bougie and rich. If me and John Lopez go to a casino, and let's say I slap $1,000 on the blackjack table and I lose $1,000. It's not the same as him slapping $1,000 on the blackjack table and losing $1,000. Like, the Texans had extra draft picks. They had extra stuff to work with. Like the Deshaun Watson trade, like they could spend their money a little bit more loosely. Like, John Lopez can take more hits than I can. Like, if the Texans just had traditional draft equity and they made the Will Anderson trade, then we can talk about it. The other thing is, I think it was a CJ Stroud move, because I think they like Will Anderson more, and that's another discussion on itself. But like, I do think that the amount of draft equity that you have should come into play when it comes to like what you're willing to give up.
I'd also tell you, and
next draft.
Yeah, I would also tell you this too, and it's one of those, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. It kind of matters a little bit to me. This is right around in his rookie year when Nick Bosa turned it from just pressures to pressures and sacks.
Oh, wow.
It's right.
Tell them how to subscribe to your stuff, bro.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube here, and then I'm also on Houston Football, my website where I do all my writing about the Texans. You can catch in the descriptions of the YouTube videos or www.houfootball.com.
Like the Athletic on steroids.
Yeah.
Steroids.
Yeah, I'm there every day. The Athletic's not. The Athletic's poaching Houston people to take them elsewhere. I'm just covering Houston.
Question 4, was a blueprint laid out for Nico? Nico getting pressed man the other day. Do you think this is going to be a blueprint? Because I'll be honest, like I've been hesitant to like say that Nico can be a number 1 receiver. I still don't believe that. You know, if you were looking at the stats after week 4, you're looking at it. Oh wow, top 5 in receiving, etc. I think this is going to kind of come a little bit more down to earth. You think a blueprint was laid out to where you press Nico, and I'm not going to say that's a wrap, but that's kind of how you keep him in check.
Well, you got to counterpunch now if you're Bobby Slowick in the offense, because you know that, and I would think too, you trust Jesse Bates to kind of handle things on one side of the field at the safety spot. Whereas if you want to put a little extra help on Nico Collins, Jesse Bates is so good that, the Falcons can kind of do a little bit of that. Plus just disrupt everything on a timing-based offense. Makes it tough. It's up to Slowick and the schematics of the offense to make sure this doesn't drastically affect what Nico brings to the table.
Question 5, what will the atmosphere be like? It's been asked lately. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The atmosphere, like from a Texans fan POV, the ones who've been there, they've been great. Haven't been as many. Like, I think it's going to happen because you have your quarterback, but Haven't been as many. I was driving in today, so we saw what happened with Pittsburgh at the JJ game. They dominated that mofo. Like they can,
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't smart. They were dumb, and they were wearing pajama pants like they've been known to do in Pittsburgh. But they're being as loud as they could be on third down for the Steelers just because they wanted to be louder than Texans fans. And I think it was kind of counterproductive. So they were dumb. But I was driving into work today. And I was pumped, bro. Like I'm always pumped to be on the air. I'm not other people, but I was pumped up. I was driving in. I clicked to 97.9 the box. Brother, it turned into a damn New Orleans Saints versus Houston Texans Super Bowl pregame show. They were no, for real. They were mixing, and I even shouted them out on the air, and they shouted me out on Twitter because I was like pumped, dude. Like I was excited because callers were calling in talking crap about the Texans. Callers were calling in and talking crap about the Saints, and it was just like a back and forth, and then like New Orleans rap with Houston, and it was like a long ass drive. And I was pumped up, man. So it got me to wondering, first of all, my white ass, I guess I just can't appreciate the New Orleans, Houston, like Super Bowl vibe. So that's just me being a dumbass honky. But what is the atmosphere going to be like? Like, are the Saints going to dominate like the Steelers did? Because with CJ Stroud and this big of a game, that's terrible if you're going to let that happen.
You'll see a lot of Saints fans there.
But as many as Steelers?
No, not as many as Steelers, but I would tell you this will be the second most present fan base on the season for the Texans. As far as opposing fan bases.
I know second most?
I mean, who's going to beat them? It's not going to be Broncos, Jaguars, Cardinals, Buccaneers, Browns. Like, I mean, they're not going to be to the Steelers level, but you will see a lot of New Orleans in the stadium on Sunday.
Dude, I'll just say this, man. They got me pumped as hell. They got me real pumped because they actually wanted to talk about Texans Steelers, unlike some people who actually get paid to – or Texans Saints, excuse me. They actually wanted to talk about Texans Saints. They were more excited than a lot of people on the sports station, or not a lot. One person on the sports station who apparently didn't. Question 6, aggressive or not? What is the mindset going to be when it comes to the Texans and their willingness to go for it on fourth down? Because I was fine with them kicking the field goal on 4th and 1 the last game against Atlanta because I didn't respect Desmond Ridder. Now, in week 1, and we're going way back, and I don't think it's there's a lot of gray area to this, so there's not like an absolute. But in week 1, I kind of felt like they were overly aggressive against Baltimore in that they went for it on 4th and 1 in their own territory a couple of times, and it kind of backfired in the first half and the second half. And D'Amico came out and said, we're going to have this mindset, but then we saw them kick the field goal last week, and some fans, some loopholes, shout out to the loopholes. If you listen, you are one, 10 to 2 Central Sports Radio 610 in the Odyssey app. They kind of said, well, that's contradictory. And that's not what he said he was going to do. I think it's kind of fluid. How do you approach this New Orleans game? Because I do not think that Derek Carr can beat you. Do you think they learned anything? Do you think D'Amico went back and said, I regret kicking the field goal on 4th and 1? Because he did say to you, there are certain plays that could have won the game instead of just late. When you say that, do you go back and say, man, we could have gone for it on 4th and 1 and we could have increased the lead? Like, what do you think about this? Because there's a lot of gray area with this.
If it's the same situation as last week, I believe they're going to go for it. If it's the Baltimore situation, I believe they're going to punt it.
So you think if they get in that same situation, like let's say they stop New Orleans 3 and out, and then they get the ball at the 46 and it's 4th and 1, you think D'Amico and company and Slowick are going to go for it?
if they can kick the field goal and it's 4th and 1, I believe they're going to go for it.
Okay.
If they can't kick the field goal, they have one of the best punters in football.
So you think when D'Amico said that there's plays that could have gone back, you think he's kind of looking at himself and saying, if we would have gone for it there and scored the touchdown, then the game would have changed?
Yeah, because 4 more points and a few more minutes off the clock.
God, I love this coaching staff.
And maybe
they give you stuff, man. They don't get sometimes they don't give it to you, but they give you stuff.
Yeah. So, but like the Baltimore setup where
for the record, I had no problem with the decision.
They're not going to do the same thing they did in Baltimore where it's on their side because their punter can flip the field and they can trust their defense against this Saints offense. Like I mean, Cam Johnston can put it inside the 10. The Zentner kid couldn't do that. So you got to factor that into, when to use the kicking game, when to not use the kicking game.
It was terrible.
Saints have a good returner too, so that's something to pay attention to from the hidden yard standpoint.
All right, question number 7. Will CJ finally throw an interception?
Yes.
And if he does, it better not be to Tyrann Mathieu. I'll be pissed.
Yes, I believe he's going to throw one to Demario Davis, the linebacker. Just one of those.
I wish he would have thrown one last week because I want to get this out of the way.
I do too, because I want the number to be absurdly low at the end of the year and just be like, oh, okay, well, he finally threw that one, but it's where you throw it that to me is going to be the important part. If it's one of those like, hey, I try to throw a bomb to Nico and it serves as a punt. That's the best type of interception to throw. Like can't throw one in the red zone. Points will be at a premium in this game, and can't give the Saints a short field. So I do believe he's going to throw one. I just don't believe this streak is going to just last and last and last. I'm happy to be wrong, but I believe he's going to throw one. And Demario Davis be my pick.
And I was really proud of CJ for actually like coming out and saying I probably should have thrown one already. That like he just doesn't disappoint me at the podium. Like he just doesn't disappoint me. Like he could have easily gone up there. Like I feel like there's a lot of quarterbacks that have been like, yeah, it's really important to protect the football. And, that's something that I take pride in and blah, blah, blah. He literally came out and said, I probably should have thrown an interception by now. It's cool. Obviously, I value it, but blah, blah, blah. He just never disappoints me at the podium.
He said he should have thrown an interception in every game this year already.
Yeah, and he might be right. Like, that's the whole thing with this. Yeah. And I had someone ask me, and I think it was Dominic from Jersey. Shout out to him. He was like, by the way, I'm going to the Jets game. He was like, oh, do you think CJ is being too cautious? I don't. I think he's playing the way that he plays. I don't think he gives a damn about that record. I think the record just kind of comes up.
I mean, look at some of these throws he's making. Cautious. Hell out of here. He's making some great throws. Like he's not passing up open guys. That's probably one of the reasons you have seen so much Nico and Tank is those guys are open. If he sees an open guy, he makes the throw. He's not scared to make any of these throws.
Question 8. Can the Texans win ugly? This was something I talked about last week with the Falcons. And I said this, after the Steelers and Jags games, they're going to have to find ways if they're going to be a team that's like when you put up the graphics in the hunt, you know what I mean? Like one game back or whatever, you're going to have to find ways to win games ugly. It's one thing to pull away from the Jags. It's one thing to pull away from the Steelers. But if they would have beaten Atlanta, we would have sit here and said they won ugly. They found other ways to win. It wasn't CJ dependent. They found ways to win ugly. Can the Texans win ugly? Do you believe this ball club can win ugly?
Yes. This is probably the wrong opponent to try to win ugly because the Saints, up until last week, had specialized in ugly football games. This is the wrong team to try to win ugly against because of so many veterans on the defense and points.
Because they win ugly. That's what they do.
The Saints would love nothing more than to turn this into a rock fight on Sunday. And just low scoring
or a street fight.
You never heard of a rock fight?
No, what's a rock fight?
Where people just throw rocks at each other.
I mean, I've had rock fights. I hit this dude Daniel across the street, and I got in trouble because they gave him you get 4 stitches, but
Yeah.
no, I never heard of that.
No, it's not a street fight, but a rock fight where people are going back and forth, just throwing, just whatever they can throw at each other, just to try to get the other side to get out, to give up, so to speak. This is not the team to win ugly against. So I actually think like a moderate, back and forth game plays better into the Texans' hand than a low scoring, nasty affair.
Okay. I mean, I think they can win ugly because they could have won against Atlanta, like with a full strength secondary or a sack here or there, but we'll see. I mean, I think if they win this week, it might be ugly. Question 9: will Schultz continue to be a go-to guy? Do you think Dalton Schultz continues to thrive?
Not this week. I like what the Saints bring from a coverage perspective against tight ends. This feels like a wide receivers and running game type game if you're going to get it going. But look, I would have told you the same thing a week ago, but it's a little bit better defense. And you've sort of showcased the desire to get Schultz involved so the other team has to account for him a little bit more, which then, okay, we talked about this already. What's your counterpunch? If they take away Schultz, what's your counterpunch? Who's getting the rock?
Question 10. Worst former Texan safety. Is it Tyrann Mathieu or Lonnie Johnson with the Saints?
It's Lonnie Johnson without a question.
Oh, really? Life Alato?
Man.
I like Tyrann. He came after me a couple times. I called him Honey Boo Boo with Lopez. And I actually thought he sucked with the Texans. And I don't think he was as good with the Chiefs as he thought he was. But I like Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu's got a lot of folks around him that I think kind of like make him act silly, and especially on Twitter. But I got love. I got love for Honey Badger. Shout out to Honey Badger, man.
Tyrann Mathieu was the third best safety on the Texans that year. Kareem Jackson was better and Justin Reed was better. And him not coming back is one of the reasons Brian Gaine got fired.
Yeah, I know B.O.B. was really pissed about that.
Lonnie Johnson got a shout out from Frank Ross this week.
Yeah, he said he was a good special teams player. All right, real quick, let's get out of here on this. Why do people want Judy? I have no idea. I think he's a clown. I think he's a goofball. I think he exposed himself yesterday. I want no part of him.
I got no interest in Jerry Jeudy.
Jeffrey Smith, spill the beans. What's going on with the former franchise quarterback? So what I've heard from people in Cleveland, these aren't just gossips. They're talking. Like I don't know if this is true or not, but this is not like some sort of BS. There's people saying, like in the back channels, that maybe he violated team rules and maybe his girlfriend broke up with him. So go figure that out. Don't know. But maybe
he kind of missed work because his girlfriend broke up with him.
Just telling you. That's what I'm hearing. And this is not like this is not cheek and bleep anything. Maybe he violated team rules. I don't know what those team rules are. And let's be honest, if you've dedicated $230 million to Deshaun Watson at this point, like it's not like Patrick Mahomes showing up 15 minutes late where you're like, let it go. Like if Deshaun were Deshaun, like 2019 Deshaun, like, but they're probably trying to count every penny they can. They're probably trying to find in him as much as they can. I heard he violated team rules, according to rumors, irresponsible rumors, and maybe she broke up with him. What I heard.
Was it
and this isn't like, I don't know. No idea.
Outside of the facility?
But this is not like anyone like out of the know. This is like Cleveland, like type in the mix, like type of stuff. Gossip, all that. But this dude's like, sometimes it's BS, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, man, Kyrie hurt his leg hopping a fence at a Kanye concert, which actually maybe happened. Like all this type of, like it's not BS.
David Njoku can eat a fireball and play football on a Sunday, and Deshaun Watson can't play with some elbow pain. Get out of here. Get out of here.
I disagree. I think the Texans lose at Carolina by it would be the worst. Don't know what he means by that. Jacob says Rangers are winning the series coming up. Not sure why we're talking about the Astros. are a guarantee with the World Series. I don't think we said that. I just think it like being out of sight, out of mind is not good.
I feel like I properly threw in the word if.
Yeah,
So
I don't know what that means. I don't know what he's saying about. Young and a Kubiak offense would have been nice, but true about the immaturity. I love Vince more than anyone, so yeah, okay. Anything on Juice coming back? No idea, and I don't even know what Juice is. Jose says,
Juice Scruggs.
can we expect Juice back 100% after a bye? I don't even know what he is, so I don't know what Juice 100% is. Stutes, appreciate you for coming through. You're the best. Love you, man. Thank you very much. Tell the people where they can find your work.
You can find me on YouTube as well. Houston Football is my website. We do all my writing. Just Houston Football Cody Stutes on a Google machine or www.houfootball.com. You got to put the www like it's 1999 or it doesn't work. So
there you go. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. It's a locker room. Can't even say locker room. It's a locker room. Number one source for Texans daily digital content. Always remember, when it comes to the Texans, we're all in this together. All love.
In the headlock, localized every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plug